One of the few truisms within criminology is that if you're male and if you're aged between 16 and 25, you are much more likely to have contact with the criminal justice system than if you are female. There aren't many criminological facts, but that's one of them. So gendering the criminal is a phrase that helps us draw attention to that fact that men are much more likely to be labelled as criminal, to come in contact with the criminal justice system than women are. If we're focusing our attention on gender and crime, that means that we're thinking about the cause of crime lying somewhere in how boys learn to become men. The phrase boys will be boys is a way of capturing that somehow there are things about growing up to become a man that are okay, that take men to the edge of what's acceptable. It's okay for men to be risky, to be boisterous, to be physical, kick over the traces. All of those phrases capture some of those cultural expectations of what being a man is about. And of course, if you recognise those cultural expectations, that has an inevitability of drawing men into the public domain, into the kinds of behaviours that will, in some circumstances, be considered to be antisocial. So there's a kind of focus on what it is about masculinity that draws men into those sorts of behaviours. Why girls don't do that kind of thing is sometimes just a matter of opportunity. It's sometimes being a good girl means that you don't do those sorts of things. Femininity is socially constructed around quite different sets of expectations. That doesn't mean to say that young women don't aspire to do those sorts of things and that some young women don't do those sorts of things. But if they do, they are doubly punished because they're not only just offending the law, they're also offending accepted expectations around what being a good girl looks like. Good girls don't do that. Just focusing on masculinity as a cause of crime is hugely problematic because it becomes redundant because it doesn't tell us very much. But I think what we have to do then is just unpack what masculinity means in different contexts. For some young boys, being accepted as a young man means being involved in street life, having a good reputation, which means getting involved in gangs, having their sense of self-worth endorsed through that kind of gang-related activity, perhaps, which then inevitably leads to criminal activity. Masculinity in and of itself doesn't tell us the whole picture, but it leads us to think about how masculinity might frame how we understand different boys in different contexts, whether they're from an ethnic group, whether they're from a different social class, frames our understanding of what kinds of expectations are of them in that particular context, and then what opportunities are provided for them in that particular context. Not all young men engage in criminal behaviour, but it does give us a framework for thinking about what those differences look like.